What is up, guys? I am Josh, and this is hashtag LifeChoices.
I am Anath. This is the podcast where we aim to help you make the best life choices.
I am David, here to welcome you to Movie Mondays.
Lastly, I am Lem, and this is our weekly segment where we talk in depth about movies. We're going to talk about what's cool, what wasn't, and what we can learn.
And this week, we will have David tell us what our discussion will be based on. So what movie is that, David?
Okay, guys, so today I've prepared, and my movie of choice is Spiderman.
Spiderman, which one? There's a billion Spidermans.
Okay, I want to choose the latest one, which is Into the Spiderverse, which is quite unique from all the other Spider-Man that has appeared, right?
And many people say it's actually the best one out there, even
yeah.
compared to my all-time favorite Spider-Man 2.
Tobey Maguire one.
Maguire.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
agree that Spider-Man 2 would be one of the best Spider-Man movies.
I think it's
out
also
there.
one of the few Marvel animated movies that got is that an Oscar or some big award?
Okay.
I'm not sure. So it's a very, I guess, remarkable, momentous movie.
Oh, yeah, and it was
Yeah.
probably the only animated movie that left me with my jaw wide open.
Oh, that's true.
Wow,
Because
okay, that
wow, was
cool.
that animation
That was really good. Yeah.
The plot is really good.
Yeah.
And
It's
the
a
music.
little different.
The music. I love the music.
When I
That
went
was
to
what's
HK, I heard some of my family members taking a shower with the track
music.
on.
yeah,
the same
yeah.
one the guy was listening to while he
Even
was
in
studying.
school, they would play it on the instruments and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because of the soundtrack. So
Wow.
overall, it was a
Yes,
good
but today
movie.
we won't be focusing on the soundtrack, but we'll be focusing on what we can learn from that movie.
Yeah, so let's start with one thing that I've observed from Spider-Man. You know, we
quick
can
summary.
learn a lot from this movie, from any movie we watch, but let's limit it to some things because we don't have the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick summary without spoilers.
That's going to be difficult, but
Yeah,
the
I
main
know.
premise of the movie.
It's hard. Okay, but the main premise of the movie
Yeah.
is it wraps around this story around Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, from a different dimension Spider-Man.
You're not from the main dimension, from what I know.
Yep,
Yeah.
because we're talking dimensions here. And Miles Morales also had the power of Spider-Man, complete with a little bit more. But the thing here is that the dimensions, the multiverse was created and other Spider-Man went into his world. And now he has the responsibility to defeat the enemy and to bring these Spider people back to their own dimension while still trying to get a hold of his newfound power. Okay, so that's very simple.
Yeah, no spoilers.
No
too.
spoilers.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard to summarize something without
Yeah.
any spoilers. I can't talk about the climax and what happened.
Yeah.
Anyways, so if you've seen the movie, you would relate and you could say and agree with me that this first point is about the value of having a mentor or mentors, right? So in the movie, Miles Morales who had this power and Spider-Man was willing to train him.
The,
Which
or
Spider-Man?
The other Spider-Man.
Okay, it's so
what is-
hard without the
what is
spoilers,
his name?
Peter.
Peter.
Peter
Oh my goodness. Peter Pecker.
Okay.
Peter Parker. Was
Peter
it Peter
Parker.
B. Parker or something like that? It was
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Peter B. Parker Spider-Man was his mentor, but all the other Spider-Men were also like mentors to
yeah.
him. But the mentor figure mainly was Peter B. Parker. And so in life, when you're gonna relate this into life, when you're trying to learn something new, you found out that you had this ability, but you don't know what to do, right? Without looking at another figure. So you will have this feeling of being lost. But having a mentor is very valuable because it will cut the learning time. And I would think of it like having a wormhole. You know what a wormhole is?
Wormhole.
Okay, let me explain. Imagine a sheet of paper and then you fold it in half. A sheet of paper with two different
Points.
points. If you fold it in half, the distance is much shorter, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a mentor, that really cuts the learning time.
Wow.
And it's like you can learn so much more in so much less time. And there's someone out there who can correct what you're doing, who can give you some pointers, and who can really advance and speed boost and rocket boost your progress, right?
Yeah, and I think you can point it out in the movie. If you guys have watched the movie, his learning actually went quite fast because of the
Yeah.
presence of a mentor. Because when you have a mentor, he's been through those experiences. He's had, what you could possibly encounter, and he can guide you through it. So I guess I'll start the discussion on this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Anyone can start the discussion.
So basically, I see the importance of a mentor as not only like it speeds up the learning curve, but also having someone who will tell you the mistakes he's made in the past, the failures he's encountered, because that's one of the most important things. Because if you're starting up in a field, say for example, you are getting into business, maybe approach somebody who you admire in business. Maybe a bit harder in that sense because these are like multi-billion-dollar people, but maybe people closer to home, small business owners that you admire. You could approach them and they could share with you their failures and how they got up from it, so that when it's your turn to face those same circumstances, you can bounce back from them, from those situations yourself. And the thing is, mentors don't have to be physical people. With the advent of the internet, YouTube and everything, you can learn those same failures and experiences through videos. A lot of these successful people, they give speeches, they give commencement speeches on graduations, and they also share their life stories, also books. So your mentors don't have to be physical people. You just need to find someone who's been there and find those things that you can learn and pick up from those people, because that knowledge is invaluable, especially for someone starting from the beginning.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a different type of mentor, not the type of person that has gone through the same experiences, but someone who is able to look at your life from a more objective point of view.
Okay,
and that
nice.
comes as a very crucial part, because in life we are definitely prone to making mistakes and doing things that often don't align with what we thought we believed in, what our moral values are. And so having this mentor who not necessarily has gone through what you're going through, but can actually look at your life and say, okay, when I look at your life, this is what I see and this is what I think you're doing wrong. You know, having that kind of person to look at you and say, okay, Enath or Lem, this is what I see and there needs to be some change here, you know? And so, for example, in my life, there have been moments where I have realized something about what I was doing and I would run to my mentor. And shout out to Jethro. Hi, my mentor.
Hello, Jethro.
So I would go up to him and I would be like, okay, this is what's happening. What do I do? But Jethro is not the type of person to tell me what to do. He is the type of person to start asking me questions. And he will ask me question after question. And what often happens is with these questions, I start thinking. I start stepping out of my shoes and looking at the bigger picture. And then I begin to answer those questions, which in turn help me make the right decisions. So the mentor doesn't always have to be someone who's gone through what you are going through, but someone who can look at the bigger picture and judge you in a good way, objectively.
Yeah, probably somebody of a higher maturity point. So somebody who can guide you through experiences he hasn't experienced, but because of his maturity, he knows how to face those things. And I like what you said, that mentors don't only impart knowledge, but also ask good questions, asking you more about what you're experiencing, what do you think you should do, because that makes the mentorship more personal. It's not just like a professor teaching a student, but it's really a mentor walking his mentee through life, asking him questions. How do you feel about that? What did that make you think? And all those different questions will help you form your own version of your action moving forward. Very important. I like how you brought that up, and that it doesn't have to be somebody who's gone through those same experiences. And for me, I had that kind of mentor when I was in college. Shout out to Sir John. When I was in college, he was my mentor for thesis. But I think the crucial thing there is he was only a mentor with regards to me dealing with academic work, but he was the kind of mentor that also stepped outside the bounds of simply helping me through my thesis. He was the kind of mentor that will ask me, hey, have you eaten lunch? Have you eaten anything? And then he'll offer me, hey, come over to the department. We have food over here. So I don't know, like I found that to be more impactful to me as having a mentor, because he cares for more than simply just
more
my
than just
academic
your
well-being.
results.
Yes,
But your personal concerns as well and development. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So just a quick thing to say is that our discussion about mentorship really excites me, because I really want this. I have this desire to help people become better versions of themselves, you know, just to help out wherever I can, because I've had multiple people who've done the same for me in specific areas. I couldn't have gone through college without this kinds of people.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add is if you're in this position and you do not have someone to look up to, someone to give you guidance, ask the right questions. That's something that we believe that you should start looking for.
Yes.
Look for someone who
you
is
have to be
more
proactive.
Look for someone who is more mature than you, someone who can help you through life. Because life, as we've said before, is not meant to be done on your own.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be done in a community. And when you've got someone who you can look up to, someone who can look at your life with the big picture in mind and ask the right questions and tell you what you really need to hear, not what you want to hear, that will help you and that will benefit you.
Yeah, and since we're talking about the importance of mentors, I also want to encourage people that if you are that person of maturity, you are the person who's more mature than other people, take it upon yourself to find somebody to mentor. Yeah, because it's not only for that person, but it's also for yourself, because you're able to impart these things, the things you've accumulated in life, your education, your experiences, being able to impart it is also one way of keeping your legacy going.
Yeah.
It's not only in your career, but it's also in what you're able to pass down to another generation or another set of people. So if you think you have those experiences, you have gone different places in life, then maybe find somebody who you could impart that knowledge to. That is also one way that we could emphasize the importance of mentorship in life.
Okay, so just a quick tip on how to approach mentors.
Oh, yes.
You have to learn
Yeah,
the
we
art
need that.
of asking questions. So what I usually do is you usually find mentors from seminars, right? So I encourage you to ask that question. Find the question in your head, and most likely than not, these speakers will be really happy to entertain your question. You can ask them after the talk, and then you ask a question after a question, and then until you create that rapport, and then you can get that person's number.
Yeah, learn
You
to
can start
ask
from there.
Learn to ask good questions. You don't just
Yeah.
ask simple questions. Say, for example, one of the best questions that I've heard somebody ask is, tell me a time that you failed and what did you learn from it and how did you go about it? Because you learn more about the person with questions like those, not just like, where were you born or what's your birthday? You don't really learn a lot about the person that way. But if you ask questions like that, like, tell me about a failure or tell me about an experience that required you to go outside of your comfort zone. When you ask questions like those, you're able to know this person deeper. And also it helps you to create a better, like you said, rapport with that person, because it's a very personal and I can't find a better word, but like intimate question with that person, because it's something that involves a life experience.
So we might have a table talk topic about asking questions, because that's a good topic.
Yeah, it's a really good
But if
topic.
you want something to listen to, we encourage you to go back to last Thursday's table talk topic,
Yeah.
which is about social skills.
Yes, very important.
Okay, so let me move on to our next tip. It's something that Miles Morales said towards the end before he faces the boss. And he said this, it's a leap of faith. And I find that real profound and amazing.
Yeah, I want to go back. It was his mentor that told him, because I think he was asking the question that, how will I know when I'm ready? I think that's
that's the first time it
so that's the first time it came up. So Peter B. Parker was being asked by Miles Morales, how will I know when I'm ready, like ready to go into action? And then Peter P. Parker says, you won't know. It's a leap of faith.
And then that happened again later in the movie. Okay, so that's why it's so profound.
Yeah.
You hear it again. And so before he faces the boss, so this new Spider-Man faces the boss, it says, it's a leap of faith. And you know, it's something where you have this feeling, you have to do something you're afraid of before you really get that feel of having that new skill,
Yeah.
right?
And I think this is very timely, because by this time, it would have been a week already from when I made this decision. But I also took that leap of faith. If you guys don't know, Life Choices is something that I have devoted myself full time. So I used to have a full-time job. I worked multimedia for this company. And then I decided to resign from that company because I believe that I can better serve people through Life Choices. So I took that leap of faith. I don't have income. If you guys don't know, we're not earning from this, well, maybe yet. So this podcast is brought to you by no sponsors yet. So if you guys want to sponsor us, yeah, you could email us at lifechoicesph@gmail.com.
opportunity.
Yes. So we're talking about taking a leap of faith. So going into a new industry, going into something new, not having all that laid out or groundwork laid out is very scary, and it takes a leap of faith. But only when you take that leap of faith will you be able to learn new things. Knowing that you don't have, let's say, a salary to lean back on, you are forced to look for those ways to advance what you have been creating. Like Elon Musk, I think when he was creating PayPal, he came to a point where he was sleeping on the floor of his office because he couldn't afford rent. So those times where you have to take a leap of faith, where you have nothing to lean back on, those are actually one of the moments that you are able to surprise yourself. You go beyond your limits and you're like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. And all it took was a leap of faith.
Yeah. And you may be thinking, okay, but when do I take this leap of faith? I was reminded of something I was studying in the Bible about sharing the gospel to people. And it can be adapted to anything really when it comes to making decisions and doing things, or in terms of this discussion, taking a leap of faith. You have to realize that the perfect time and the perfect moment will never come. Just do it. Really, just Nike it. Waiting for optimum moments to do all of this will not work, because a leap of faith doesn't need a perfect time or a perfect moment. You've just got to do it and realize at the same time that you may not succeed, you may fail, but this failure is something that you can learn from, something you can use to grow and improve in the future. And the next leap of faith you take will definitely, hopefully, be better than the last.
Yeah, and adding to that, like, when do you know to take a leap of faith? You really won't know, because it wouldn't be a leap of faith if you already know, like, you had like a process to prepare for it. It wouldn't be a leap of faith. But like Inath said, going back, one of the greatest stories in the Bible is about how Peter walked on water. And this is an image used by a lot of people. But if you think about it, you won't be able to create something extraordinary or basically walk on water if you're not willing to step out of the boat. That is your leap of faith. You need to get out of where you're comfortable and try something new.
And I also read this article that talks about the difference between professionals and amateurs. And the bottom line is professionals start before they are ready.
Wow.
So they also take a leap of faith. So if you think about the companies, the big ones that are doing really well today, most likely those founders also started with a leap of faith. For example, Richard Branson, with all of his companies, he doesn't have to be fully ready about everything. He doesn't have to know about everything. He just has to have that minimal viable product to get out there, you know?
I just want to throw it out there that this is screaming against everything I was taught growing up. It's like, be ready for your exam. Be ready for all these things before you
it does
embark. And I just want to speak that there's two extremes to it.
Yes.
You have to have some basis or some foundation to be leap off from, or else you're just throwing yourself into the fire, right? So I suppose we as a society, though, especially at least in my family, seem to be addicted to safety, and that's what I think we need to highlight here. Don't be afraid to take off from your comfort zone, or else you may not experience what is in store.
Don't be reckless.
You won't be able to unearth your potential if you don't take a leap of faith.
It's true, because comfort is the enemy of progress.
Yes. We just want to err on the side of caution here that we're not telling you to be reckless and to go like just whenever.
That's not the point.
Yeah,
study for your exams.
It's called a leap of faith because that leap has a basis, but that basis is not dependent on how ready, or it's not dependent on what's been laid out. You're taking that jump because there's something inside of you that's telling you, hey, you should do this against all odds. So it's not being reckless. You need to have some sort of basis for it, but you just have to start doing it. Yeah. So at this point in time, we're just gonna wrap everything up. Wow, I didn't even realize time passed by, but we're nearing the end of our podcast. But basically, two main points we discussed today. First is the importance of mentorship. You need mentors because there are people that have gone through it. You could learn so much from them if you will just listen. And mentors don't necessarily need to be someone that has already done what you're thinking of doing, but somebody who's just more mature than you could advise you and ask you certain questions that will bring about a better version of you. And also, you don't also need to find a mentor just in a physical person. There's the internet, there's YouTube. You can learn from, let's say, like we said, Richard Branson, find out how he built his company. You could learn that on YouTube because of the internet. The world is amazing because of that thing. And lastly, you need to just find a way to approach someone and ask them, hey, can you be my mentor? But learn to ask good questions. Because if somebody's mentoring you, but you're not asking the right questions, you won't maximize your mentorship experience. And lastly, you need to take a leap of faith. That's the second point we discussed today. Take a leap of faith. That applies to so much in our lives. I shared about how I went into this podcast, take a leap of faith, even if it doesn't seem certain. But I believe that there is something I can do here, and maybe one day it will all pay off. But you just need to Nike it, like Anath said. Just
not a sponsor,
do it.
Though.
Yes, but also, yes, not a sponsor, but who knows, maybe at some point. But if you guys want to sponsor us, that's lifechoicesph@gmail.com. So just throwing that out there. But yeah, take a leap of faith. sometimes we try to find all the excuses not to do something. Instead, find all the reasons why you should do something and then take that leap of faith. Thank you for listening to the hashtag Life Choices podcast. Hope to have you guys back here on Thursday for Table Talk Thursdays. But before you go, we just want to remind you, in this life, we have no choice but to make choices. So choose wisely. See you in the next podcast.